What's up, y'all? I know it's been a while since I made a video, but I've been busy for a while doing a lot of things, trying to wrap up my kids' book, and I'm also finished my Toon Boom certification, getting my animation game up, because pretty soon I want to make the transition from doing the more traditional kids' book to doing some interactive stuff. So be on the lookout for that. Really, the video today, I just want to jump in and say, what up, what up, what up, because I know it's been a minute. No, I'm just trying to say what up. I know it's been a minute since I've been on and dropped any videos of any sort, but I'm drawing on Instagram all the time. So if you're not following me on Instagram, you're missing out. No, for real. Right here is where you should find the info to find me on Instagram. If it's not here, it's gonna be here. If it's not here, I'm sure you can find the link in the profile. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, check it out. But I just want to drop some stuff today about progressing as an artist. And a lot of times people wonder, like, how do I get better? And they want to get better like real fast, and they want to get better at everything really quickly. And so I just want to talk a little bit about some of my materials, as well as some of my thought process in terms of getting better as an artist. And so one of the things that is essential to getting better as an artist is finding tools that work for you. And the only way that you get to that point is through experimentation. And if you're afraid to experiment artistically, it's going to be really difficult for you to grow. So what I typically get is a lot of these really small sketchbooks, and when I find these somewhere, especially if I find them online, I just buy a whole bunch of them. So this is the new one that I'm about to hit up. This is the old one. It's done. It's like maybe a couple pages left. And so these are the ones that I get them. It's a 5.5 by 3.5 inch sketchbook. It's about 96 pages. And it has like this really cool, nice elastic thing that keeps it closed. And it has like a little bookmark thing too, which I never use that, but it's actually really nice paper too. Look, flip. And I'll show you the pages in this in a little bit. But I use these little sketchbooks, and normally what I draw with is I draw with this really simple blue Col-Erase pencil. It's psychologically it's one of those old animation things to draw with a blue pencil, because I don't scan them in. I do draw back into them though, so I have these two markers that I got online. I got these from Jetpens. They're pretty cool. And I got these Waterbrushes. They're very cool. And they come in multiple sizes. And if you've seen previous videos, you know what these are. Take a look at that. Check that out. Let me get it. Pretty nice, huh? Which makes it pretty convenient, because a lot of the drawing I do while I'm in the car waiting for my kids to get out of school. Because that's the life of a dad and an artist, you know what I'm saying? You gotta do art where you can do it. And then I have this really cool travel watercolor thing. And I originally got one of these when I was in the Ryman Arts program. When I was in high school, they was in like ages ago, like centuries ago. So if you're in the Los Angeles area, or I guess the greater Los Angeles area, and you can get your kids involved in the Ryman Art program. But it's pretty cool. It's easy to lay this out in the car, and with the water brushes and a napkin. Like, you do a lot of sketching, in a small sketchbook like this. So, one of the keys to growing as an artist is deciding on what you want to get better at. One of the hardest things to do is to decide you want to get better at everything all at once. So right now, one of my primary goals that I really want to get better at is color. Mostly because a lot of times I know myself, because I draw a lot, that I'm usually working with just basic value, and I feel fairly comfortable with value. I wouldn't say mastery, because I don't think you can ever say like you of yourself that I've mastered it. I've mastered it. I've mastered it. But I think I'm pretty good at it. But color sometimes is a challenge because optical color versus color in different lighting situations and all those sort of things require slightly different observation skills and intellect in terms of evaluation and the concepts and principles related to that. So that's been one of my goals, and to be able to on a regular basis experiment with also wacky color choices. So that's why it's really good to have the sketchbook and a way of being able to do like a lot of these really quick color study, color sketches. It's because it gives you an opportunity to be able to be somewhere where you're maybe distracted, or you're waiting for somebody or something, or whatever the situation might be, and you can just slam down some colors real quick, but also still thinking about fundamental color theories and concepts and principles, and trying to figure out how to apply those. And it's like the more you practice it, the better you get at it. So the primary goal right now for me is experimenting with color combinations, how color theory works in a practical way, and then taking some risk with color, so that it not only in a traditional sense, that it transitions into digital. Because right after this video, I'm gonna do like a quick speed sketch of a wacky cartoon kind of drawing. So right after this video log, stay tuned. But as artists, you should decide on what is it that one thing that I want to get much better at. Because artistically, it's really difficult to decide to get better at everything all at once, because then you have way too many things to evaluate. So for yourself, make a decision on what is that one thing that I want to get better at. Because once you get better at that and you reach a point to where you feel like you've obtained a goal, that I've gotten better at that, then you can decide, hey, there's another thing that I feel like I want to get better at. So if you feel like, hey, I want to get better at drawing hands, you just spend as much time as possible just drawing hands in different positions, doing different things, analyzing the structure of it, and then two, deciding on a level of complexity, like how complex do I want to get into the structure of what I'm trying to learn. So if you're just trying to learn animating hands, you don't necessarily have to go to understanding all of the complex anatomy, although it'll help you. But you could just think about the interesting shapes and how the shapes transition into other shapes, and you can be pretty efficient about drawing hands. So ultimately, it's up to you to decide on what your path is when you want to get better at something. But if you can limit your focus, ultimately, it's going to make the journey that much more efficient. So that's just a little tip for the day. I hope that's helpful. If it is, hit me in the comments. Let me know if you want to, some tips on other things, because I got tips, like all sorts of tips, like all sorts of ideas, suggestions, crazy things. But stay tuned, and thank you for supporting Grady Fun. Hey. So let me just tell you a little something about this, since we got this beat dropping, and we making that transition from all that yapping into some rapping. I'm just kidding. So I did a sketch of this earlier on, a version of this in my sketchbook, and I said, hey, I want to do something digital, something cartoony, something to deal with the X-Men, because when I was younger, I was definitely a big fan of the cartoon. So what I did is I isolated each one of these characters on the separate layers. I used the blue marker in Toon Boom Harmony, and I sketched it in each one of their separate layers really quickly. And then allows me, because it's vector, I can move it around and shift it wherever I want. So what I do is I take the blue line, I'll put it in a color layer, and then I'll draw back into the line work on the line layer. And then after I'm done, what I'll do is I'll take all the blue and I'll just completely delete it out, and then I'll be left with just my line work. And the benefit of doing it that way is that it minimizes the layers to a certain degree, because eventually, I mean, this thing is gonna be stacked with layers. I mean, when I say stacked with layers, I mean stacked. Because I approach this the same way I would approach it, both digital and traditional in a way. So what I'll do is, after I do the line, which traditionally I would do with my brush pen that I showed you earlier, and then I would take watercolor and I would do the base color for each one of the characters. So that watercolor that I showed you earlier. And in this case, it's all digital. So if you close your lines in Toon Boom, it's really quick and fast to fill it in. The entirety of this process probably took about maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2. And this is all sped up, so you don't have to watch every single stroke. So after I have all the base colors, what I did was I made an individual shadow layer for each one of the characters too. It's just because I was assuming that I might want to tweak the shadows later. And this is the same process that I use when I paint them traditionally too, with my watercolor. Is that once the base color's in, I'll go back in usually with something like a violet, similar to what I'm doing here. But in this case, in Toon Boom, what I'm doing is I'm making a multiply layer. So I'm using this blend node and attaching it to each one of those shadow layers and making them all multiply. So it'll take that violet and it'll make basically a shadow side. And then what I do is I'll go in here and making these just color backgrounds, similar to if I was painting it traditional. I would try to find a color that's not in each of the characters, so it's a separate isolated color. So in this instance, there's not really any green, like really light turquoise colors in the characters. So I just made a couple gradations in the background and then made like a really light green. So there's a couple gradations on both sides and then green. And then I go back in with a white, just to pop the characters and separate them a little bit more. And then what I did was I put a wash in between the layers of the characters too, so that the Wolverine character sits forward more, and then both the Rogue and Gambit characters sit a little bit more closer as well. And then another layer to push both Storm and Jean back. And then finally I just went in and added a layer where I just added some like fake effects. So a little bit of glow for the visor and for the card and on the Wolverine's claws. So I mean, it's a really quick and simple process. I mean, I could bang these sketches out, but it all comes from practices. And again, my goal to learn color so I could do color digital, and it goes back and forth. Bam.